Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I want to say welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And today we are going to talk about Black excellence, particularly in the area of wealth building, particularly in the area of real estate, or what I call Black gentrification. Y'all know I have a Black gentrification shirt. I didn't wear it today. I wore my Black Enough shirt. But Black gentrification is where we buy back the block and we make it into our own, and we see our own vision come to reality. And so a person who's actually making that dream into a reality right now is Mr. Julian Gordon, who is a real estate expert, and he is in the middle. He has actually officially raised over $1 million so far and counting to go buy a big chunk of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I thought everybody should know about this. So before I even go further, I want to say, Julian, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Doc. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too, brother. It's great. Always great to see you. So everybody who's watching, put your hashtag B1 in the chat. Hashtag B1 means we're Black first. The Black community matters more than any other community. So put that in the chat. If you are B1, put hashtag B1 in the chat and hit the thumbs up button. So Julian, let me ask you, you engaged in a process of doing something that's really important. We talk about gentrification and kind of fighting against gentrification. And, sometimes it's tough, right? You feel like you're, like you got a slingshot against a nuclear warhead, when you compare our capital to everybody else's capital. But there is an idea of kind of doing something with what you've got. So you've actually engaged in a process to buy back a big chunk of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so myself, my good friend Anthony Kimball and Tevin Wade, we're out in Baton Rouge right now, and we have locked in on the Eddie Robinson Senior Historic District, which was a historically Black neighborhood. A couple of things happened to this neighborhood that caused it to get divested. The first thing that happened was integration. We think integration was a good thing for us, but it was actually not. So in terms of the Lincoln Hotel and the Lincoln Theater, which were all Black people, bougie Black folks, ended up going to the white theater and the white hotels once integration occurred. The other thing that happened was the interstate system. They strategically ran the interstate system through this community to break up the Black wealth that was there. And then the third thing that happened was Black flight following white flight. So white folks started moving to the suburbs, and so Black people wanting to be white and keep up with the Joneses ended up following them. And so now the Black middle class and the Black wealth ends up leaving the community. And so what we have left here is the Eddie Robinson Senior Historic District. It's about 200 acres, and it's actually positioned strategically, not strategically, but perfectly between Wealth, which is the Garden District on the right side, and Work, which is downtown Baton Rouge. I've seen this pattern over and over, Doc, from growing up in Oakland. I see what happened to West Oakland now. What is West Oakland? It's positioned right there perfectly between downtown Oakland and San Francisco. But when I used to go to baseball practice in West Oakland, DeFermery and Lowell Park, DeFermery is where the Black Panthers would organize, and Lowell Park, there's literally drug addicts walking in the outfield while we over here practicing for T-ball, you know what I'm saying? But that's no longer the case in West Oakland. And if I had the capital then, when I was in T-ball to invest in West Oakland, I would have. But then, of course, same thing happened in Brooklyn. Jay-Z said, I could have bought a loft in Dumbo for $2 million. Now it's worth such and such. You know what I'm saying? In Dumbo, same positioning, right? Manhattan over here, downtown Brooklyn over here, Dumbo right in between. So these same patterns keep playing out over and over and over again. And we see an opportunity in Baton Rouge, which is a smaller secondary market to New Orleans, to take advantage of that and get ahead of the curve, as opposed to wait until the curve has lifted and then try to buy, because now you're buying real estate at peak prices. The real key is getting ahead of the curve, and we see an opportunity to do that. A lot of people, especially educated Black folks, they tend to go to the place that has already been made. So people want to go to Brooklyn, they want to go to San Francisco. These are places that have already been made, and therefore you're buying at the peak. We actually believe in place making. So we're going to make Baton Rouge the place to be. And so this is what we're focused on with our work and with the Buy Back Baton Rouge Fund.
All right, all right. Everybody who's watching, I'm here with Mr. Julian Gordon, who is heading a project to buy back a big chunk of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with the buy back. I don't know why Buy Back Baton Rouge Fund. I keep wanting to say Buy Black because it's so used to say Buy Black, and that's how you know me. I'm Black B1 all day, and I just think this is a really important project for the community, and so. Julian, let me ask you this question. So right now, you know, during COVID and everything else, people are trying to figure out what to do in terms of investing, how to actually generate wealth and make money, and how to get ahead, how to do short-term things, long-term things, things like that. Yeah. You're a big advocate of real estate. You control and manage millions of dollars in real estate property, even before this project, which I think is going to be epic and amazing. Why real estate? Why is real estate something that is important to you and resonates with you as a human being, as a Black man, as an investor?
Man, this is critical because when you think about it, real estate makes up about 1/3 of Americans' wealth. The average American's wealth actually, no, 2/3 actually comes from their primary residence. It's the equity that's locked up in their primary residence. But of course, you know, there are all kinds of things like redlining that kept us from actually getting in. In fact, FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, was strategic in actually keeping us from owning while they were giving loans freely through Levitt Towns and et cetera to white developers, and then who then of course attracted white buyers. So we've been strategically kept out of the real estate game. You know, I'm a very spiritual person, and when you think about it, what was the first thing God created before God even gave us life? God created land. Garden of Eden was there before Adam was there, if you are a Christian, right? So, because we needed an environment to live in. And so land is actually the first gift from God. And what has happened is that land has been strategically taken from us as people of African descent, as the firstborn, as God's oldest child, for lack of a better word. It's been strategically taken from us. We got the Chinese taking Africa from us. We got Arabs taking Africa from us. It's been a constant thing. So I could go into that a little bit deeper, but I would like to say that when you look at real estate, if you think about the feudal system is the feudal system in Europe in 900 AD is where kings gave land to lords in exchange for loyalty. Kings gave land to lord in exchange for loyalty. So where do you think the word landlord comes from? It comes from the feudal system. And the feudal system is 1,100 years old. So multifamily real estate, which is my focus, is actually the most recession-proof and longest lasting business model of all time. It is the most proven business model of all time. It is the #1 subscription business, better than Netflix, better than Amazon Prime. It's been here for 1,100 years. I can't guarantee you that Amazon will be here 1,100 years from now. I can't guarantee you that Google will be here 1,100 years from now. But as long as there's human beings on the face of this earth who need a place to live, I can guarantee you that multifamily real estate will be here. The other thing about multifamily real estate, Doc, is that it is recession proof. What do you think happens to rents in the midst of a recession? Rents go up. Now, people are confused. Why would rents go up? People losing their jobs, this and that. Here's why. Because in every market, there are permanent renters who will just never be able to get to the other side, renters who are looking to buy, and then there are single family buyers. Now, when single family buyers who bought wrong or bought too much house, one of them loses their job, what happens to them? They either get foreclosed on or they have to sell their single family home at a discount. And where do they go? They actually become renters. So now the number of people who need rentals goes up, but the number of rental units has not increased. When demand goes up, the supply has not increased. What happens to price? Price goes up. So rents actually go up in the midst of a recession. So this is why I believe so much in this asset class. There's also 4 benefits of multifamily real estate. 1 is the cash flow. 2 is the tax savings. 3 is the depreciation, right? And then 4 is the principal pay down by the tenants. So a lot of people just focus on the cash flow, but there's all these other financial benefits. Like one property I have, Doc, 1 duplex that I have here in New Orleans over the 30 years. Again, this is long-term. Real estate is not get rich quick. Yes, there's house flipping and things of that nature. I'm a long-term buy and hold. Okay, so 1 property that I bought here in New Orleans over 30 years is going to lead to $638,000 in cash flow over 30 years. Okay, again, long-term gain. It's going to lead to $225,000 in principal pay down by the rents from the tenants. Okay, the tax savings is going to be $278,000 over 30 years. And if it appreciates by 1% every year for 30 years, that'd be an additional $104,000. So when you add all those up, this one decision that I made last year is going to lead to a $1.2 million shift in generational wealth for my last name. and I have 10 of them now, right? And I'm not stopping. Even if I stop now, my daughter would be straight. So this is why I believe in this asset class so much. And I'm not saying don't do any of the things that are more risky and volatile, but I do say have these kind of stable investments, and that actually puts you in position to take more risk in other areas.
All right, everybody. I'm speaking with Mr. Julian Gordon. He partners with us a lot in the Black Business School, and you've seen him in the BBS quite a bit. But he also is heading a whole campaign to buy back Baton Rouge and raising tons of Black wealth to do it. Do me a favor, guys. If you haven't done it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up button. I want to ask you guys a question real quick. Everybody who's watching, give me a yes or no in the chat. Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you a real estate investor? Are you a real estate investor? Do you own property right now? Give me a yes or no. It's okay to say no, because if you say no, I want you to give me a verbal yes or no if you are an investor or not at this point in real estate. And once you answer that question, I'm gonna ask you another question. Okay, I'm gonna give you a second to answer that question.
And while they're answering that, Doc, the reason we allowed, as people of African descent, the reason we allowed land to be taken from us is because we never perceived it as ours. Right? When we were born, when first man, first woman, black man, black woman was born, the land was here. The land was here. So we didn't perceive it as something to own. It was a gift to us. And so unfortunately, we had outsiders who get labeled as oppressors or whatnot. We had outsiders who had a different relationship to land, and they saw it as something to be taken and to be owned. You can even look at the architecture in Europe, right? In Europe, you see castles and you see moats. And what that architecture suggests is that our white brothers and sisters, they were fear-based. Why? Because they built walls around where they live. When you go to look at architecture in indigenous places like Africa or in Native Americans, we didn't build walls to keep something outside from coming in. So you can even see for some reason, there is fear and scarcity built into the DNA of some cultures. And so therefore, when they perceived this idea or created this idea of owning land, even though it was a gift to us from God, right? Then they come and interact with us and they say, oh, these people aren't owning this land. Let's just take it. And so all of a sudden we find ourselves with no land and we end up with their religion.
Well, I love it. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm looking at the comments here when I asked how many of you are property owners. I'm seeing almost like 50-50 yes and no. I'm seeing actually a rate that's it looks almost like it's slightly pretty consistent with like the home ownership rates in America. Now, I want to go deeper than that. I want to ask you guys, how many of you have ever thought about, give me a yes or no, how many of you have ever thought about owning multifamily properties, owning real estate that you can actually rent out to another person and allow that other person to help or if not cover the entire mortgage for you? Give me a yes or no if you've ever thought about doing that. And then I want Julian to chime in on that. So Julian, you are a person that's really dug into multifamily investing, and you've actually led the multifamily movement, which I think is great. Alicia and I bought our first rental property recently. I wouldn't call it multifamily. It's not. There's one family that lives there, one person actually, but it was really cool because the amount of money they paid in rent pays the mortgage. You know, it pays them when you take out the expenses, which aren't very high. They cover the mortgage. So, and then on top of that, the property, in fact, I'll tell you this and you can let me know if this is really odd or not, but the price we bought it at, the real estate agent called us a month after we bought it and said, you could sell this right now for a $30,000 gain. Like, so literally within 1 month, she said, I can find you a buyer right now that will give you $30,000 on top of what you paid for it. Yeah. And I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world, you know, that this, you know, and what it reminds me of is I heard a saying where somebody said that working is one of the hardest ways in the world to make money. that working is like the worst way to make money. Can you kind of speak to that? I mean, what sorts of things do you see in multifamily housing that leads you to push so hard to get people to take a look?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is that there's two groups of people who are probably here, and you just identified them. Is first and foremost the renters, right? So a lot of people here are renting, and I have a rule, which is no living on your own if you don't own anything. A lot of people think that, oh, I moved out of my mama's house and I'm on my own now, but you're renting. You're renting. And that is literally thousands of dollars going out the door every single month, but you think you're being responsible and living on your own. If I asked everybody in the chat right now, to add up how much money they paid in rent since they've been quote unquote living on their own, we'd probably get over $500 million. We'd probably get, with how many people that I see here, let's just say the average person has paid $50,000 in rent, and there are 1,000 people here. So what is that? Oh yeah, that's 50 million. That's 50 million in rent just from the people who are here. And let's say you are owning right now. Let's say you do own. In fact, for the single family buyers, none of you really own. I just want you to be very clear about that. You might control the property, but you don't own it. Okay. When you see, you've been watching so many episodes of HGTV, when you get the keys, everybody calls you a home owner. Congrats, you're a home owner. You put a picture on Facebook and Instagram. Look at me, I own a home. I'm not paying rent anymore. That's a lie. At that moment in time, you are a home buyer, not a home owner. The bank owns 96.5% of your home. You only own 3.5% of it. And even once the mortgage is paid off, you still have property taxes and insurance, right? And go ahead and stop paying your property taxes and see what happens. So you're actually, most Americans are never really home owners, even though that's the language that they use, like to use, right? So first and foremost, you can't rent your way to wealth. You cannot rent your way to wealth in terms of housing. Rent typically takes about 1/3 of the money that comes into people's household every single month. And literally, Doc, if you could keep $1,000 a month every single month instead of paying it to rent to somebody, and you invested at 5%, which you know is very conservative, you could keep that. Instead of it going out to another family, you could keep it and invest it at 5% annually for 40 years. Guess how much money you would have? $1.5 million. You would all have $1.5 million if you could literally just get rent off the table and invest that money at 5%, which is very conservative. Now, for the single family buyers, I need you to, so everybody who's renter, I need you to first and foremost be aware that you are actually homeless. You are homeless. You might call it my apartment, but it's not really your apartment. You're not on the title, you're not on the deed. Subconsciously, you call it my apartment, but the reality is it's not. So when you have a dinner party after quarantine is over or whatnot, don't say come over to my apartment or my house, because it's not yours. Say come over to Sally's house, come over to Tommy's house, because that's where I've been renting for the past 5 years. I've been making somebody else wealthy. I don't care if you have a bellman in the lobby. I don't care if you got free coffee. I don't care if there's Thai food and Jamaican food downstairs. I don't care if you are about your view. If you don't own it, it doesn't matter, okay? And so the only way to wealth in this country is through ownership. Now, for the single family buyers that are here, I'm sorry to say that you got caught up in the American nightmare instead of the American dream, okay? The American nightmare is getting people into single family homes. I'm gonna explain to you why. When your first mortgage payment for all the single family buyers here, your first mortgage payment was 70% interest and only 30% went to principal. So let's say your mortgage payment was $2,000, $1,400 went to interest and only $600 went to principal. Okay, so let me just share the transaction for a single family buyer. Here's what's really happens. The first and foremost, the word mortgage has the same prefix as the word mortician. So the word mortgage, it literally means death pledge. A lot of single family buyers here, you signed up for a 30-year death pledge and you were happy about it because you had been programmed like that for so long. Now here's how the transaction really works. A lot of single family buyers are like, oh, I'm not paying rent anymore, Julian, so I'm doing good. Here's the truth of that transaction. The truth is that the bank buys your home and then it rents it to you for 30 years, okay? You're not paying rent to a landlord, but you're paying rent to the bank for the money that you didn't have to buy the house. And then the interest on a $300,000 home at 3.5% down at 4% is $208,000. If you divide that $208,000 over 30 years or 360 months, all of you single family buyers, you're literally paying about $600 per month in rent. But again, it's not to a landlord, it's to the bank in the form of interest. So some of you who bought single family homes, if you bought it the wrong way, guess what? You have more money going out of your pocket every single month connected to housing than somebody who's renting the same square footage as you are next door. So this is the trickery of the American dream. And for the single family buyers, the easiest way to retain an employee for 30 years, to keep them stuck on the corporate plantation, is to give them a house that's a little bit bigger than they can afford. Some of you are afraid to quit your job and leave the corporate plantation because you're afraid of missing one mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Wow, that's really powerful. Give me a yes or no if this is sinking in. If you guys are getting it, let me know, because this is whenever you come through, man, it's just such an awakening for people. It's a financial consciousness, really. That's what it is. A lot of people have their views challenged, and those who are open-minded enough to kind of see that, kind of look at it and say, wow, I never thought of it that way before. And so I want to do a couple of things. First of all, you're doing a special event coming up in the Black Business School called the Emancipation Equation. That's going to happen. It's totally free. You guys, I'm gonna give you guys the URL. I'm gonna let Julian describe how it's going to go down. He's going to be leading the show. I'm going to participate, but he's the boss in that. And so the URL is theemancipationequation.com, THE. That's theemancipationequation.com. You can register for free. It's going to happen this weekend, starting on September.
Somebody type that in the chat.
Yeah. I'll type it in the chat too.
The Emancipation Equation. Make sure you.
Yeah, I'll type it in there and pin it.
Okay.
And also, so Julian, could you talk about the Emancipation Equation that you're doing this weekend? It's totally free, everybody. So we'd love to have you guys there. Tell us about that. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to do a little calculation in the backdrop to kind of add some spice to the conversation.
Okay, let's do that. Cool. So the Emancipation Equation is going to be this Friday. I'm going to be going live with Doc, and I'm going to actually be teaching for about 90 minutes on the multifamily master plan, which is going to teach you how to finance, find, and finalize multifamily real estate deals. Did you know that there are actually loan programs out there that have no down payment and no credit score consideration? For some of you out there who's like, oh, I can't afford multifamily real estate, or I can't even afford real estate in general, I'm going to literally wipe that excuse off the table for you on Friday. Also, once you get financed, the next challenge, and actually the hardest thing, is to find the deal. A lot of you are looking on Trulia and Zillow to find real estate deals. That is not where I go to find real estate deals. We look for off-market deals. Off-market deals come through relationships and research. How many of you ever got a hookup at Foot Locker before? How many of you ever had a friend who worked at Foot Locker and you got the hookup on the shoes, right? That is an off-market deal, okay? That's an off-market deal, y'all. And so we want to do the same exact thing, but we're doing a bigger transaction, which is buying a home, not just a pair of shoes, all right? And then once you get the contract, there are strategies you have to use to finalize that deal and get it to contract. Just because you get an offer accepted doesn't mean that you actually close on that home. And so we're going to be guiding you. I'll guide you step by step through how to do that on Friday. Again, I've done this in 3 different cities: in Oakland, California. I own in Oakland, California, Brooklyn, New York, and in New Orleans, and in Baton Rouge, actually. And I have 10 properties with 30 apartments, 10 properties and 30 apartments. I have achieved, the first property that I bought in Brooklyn, New York, a 3-family, got me to rent and mortgage freedom immediately, meaning that I have not had a housing expense for the last 7 years of my life. I have never paid a mortgage payment whatsoever, because the rents from the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor, the moment I purchased the property, covered everything and left me with cash flow. And so I'm going to show you how to do that, get your first property, but ultimately I'm trying to show you all how to build an entire portfolio, okay? So I want you to all just, I need you all just to touch your mind real quick, and I just need you to erase, I need you to erase the idea of having one property, because that's what the American dream teaches you, which is really the American nightmare. Erase it. I want you to think about having not a property, but a portfolio. Okay, it's kind of like reach for the stars and you land in the clouds or whatever. I want you to reach for a portfolio, okay? Not just one single property. Over the course of your life, I know all of you can get one property. So if we know that all of you here can get one property, then why would we stop there? We need to create and build and buy more assets. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, that is the emancipationequation.com, theemancipationequation.com. That is this Friday. Now, if you find that for whatever reason, your credit, your cash flow, which is your income, and your cash savings are not enough for you to get financed, or you've been through bankruptcy, that does not have to stop you from being a real estate investor. You can actually go invest in other people's deals passively. Now, of course, Doc and I want you, like we do, to have properties in your own last name. But if for whatever reason you're blocked in terms of financing, you can still actually go be a real estate investor by investing in other people's deals. And so that's what we do in Buyback Baton Rouge. We create opportunities for people to invest. Because if any money is sitting at the bottom of your savings account, you are literally just throwing money away, because inflation is growing faster than your savings account, right? Your savings account, I need everybody to be clear on this, y'all. You realize that this cash money that you've been chasing your entire life, that cash is the lowest yielding asset in the entire world. Cash is the lowest yielding asset in the entire world. That's what you've been taught to chase. The government just literally printed how much? 6 trillion? The government literally just printed it. And the more they printed, the less valuable that money in your pocket actually became. So if your Bank of America savings account is only yielding 0.03% interest, you know how long it'll take you double money in a Bank of American account? 72 divided by 0.03 is 2,400 years. It'll take you 2,400 years to save, to double your money in a Bank of America savings account. Multifamily real estate, when bought right, will at least yield 12%. 72 divided by 12 is 6, meaning that your money is doubling every 6 years, not every 2,400 years. So this is why we have to get our money out working. These are called dead presidents, y'all. And your responsibility is to resurrect dead presidents. Well, George Washington had slaves. So if George Washington on the $1 bill is sitting around, I'm not gonna let him be lazy when he was enslaving my people. I'm gonna put every George Washington I have to work just like he put my ancestors to work, okay? Your money is supposed to be working for you, but you are being lazy, or you are allowing it to be lazy by putting it into a savings account. You have to understand how money works. And so this is why Doc and I teach stocks, which is a way to make your money work, and we teach real estate because that's another way for your money to work. One, if you're not educated, can be more volatile, and one, actually both can. If you're not educated on either one, you can lose money. You can lose money on both, right? And we believe in having a combination. Of course, Doc always preaches diversify your portfolio, okay? And so this is where we come and we tag team. Of course, he leads with you and teaches you the stock game, and then he brings me in to share an asset class that I also know will balance out your portfolio so that you have diversity, and that we are actually creating generational wealth that we can pass down to the next generation, to our youngsters, all right?
I love it. I love it. Everybody who's watching, this is Julian Gordon. He's the leader of the multifamily movement. He just raised over $1 million and counting to buy back Baton Rouge. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to buybackbatonrouge.com. That's buybackbatonrouge.com. He's also doing a free event this weekend called the Emancipation Equation. That's September 11th, 8 p.m. If you're interested in multifamily real estate, this is somebody to listen to and talk to. So I'm gonna do a little trick. I want to a couple things. One, I want to ask you guys. Julian used an example earlier that if you pay $1,000 a month in rent, and you do that for 40 years, if you were to have invested that and earned 5%, you would have made over $1 million, right? Which means you would have bought your landlord a very nice house. Now, I want to ask you guys this. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Who pays more than $1,000 a month for whatever place they live in? Rent, mortgage, anything. How many of you pay more than $1,000 a month? I used to pay $1,000 a month. I pay more than that now. It's not right. Chicago, you can't get a whole lot for $1,000 a month. So, and also I want to ask Julian this question. What would you consider to be, so you mentioned 5%, and we both know that's a conservative number. So if you're investing in multifamily property, what might be considered a decent, ROI, decent cap rate, IRR, whichever measure you want to use?
Minimum is 12%. Minimum is 12%, right? But then good is 15%, and anything above that, you've made a great deal. So that's how we tend to operate. Is minimum is 12%, meaning that the money that you have in the deal is doubling every 6 years.
Okay, so I asked that question for a reason, and as I lay this out, this is a little surprising. I'm gonna give you guys in a second, but I want you guys to see this is the emancipationequation.com. This is some of Julian's real estate portfolio. I mean, the brother's been doing, he's been getting it done. This is his portfolio. He says, I've never made a mortgage payment in my life. He shows you the properties that he owns. He loves to take his students around to show them the numbers, show them exactly what he's doing. And he's really getting it done. And so that was the first thing I wanted you all to see. But then the second thing I wanted you guys to do is, or I wanted to share with you is this. So earlier, remember, Julian was saying that if you were to give your landlord $1,000 a month and had instead invested that and earned 5% on this money, you would have over $1 million, 1.5 million in 40 years. Let's do a little bit of a heavier number. Let's really, I want you guys to for real understand.
Oh no!
How rich? Don't
hurt him, Doc. Don't hurt him, Doc.
How that 1.3 trillion is being used by everybody that's spent all their time trying to convince you that Black people are poor. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Everybody from the racists, you got the racists, the white supremacists, we know that's out there, but you also got the Negro naysayers, the people that just believe Black people can't build anything, can't own anything, can't do anything. Well, guess, Julie, I want you guys to try to guess. Put the guess in the chat. Let's throw in a heavier number. Let's assume you pay $1,500 a month, right, in your rent, which I know a lot of people pay $1,500 a month, and you do that for 40 years. And Julian mentioned a cap rate or an ROI of 12%. That is reasonable to expect, about 12% if you invest in multifamily real estate. I want you to see the impact on future generations that you can have, and on yourself that you can have by shifting your mindset from being a paycheck to paycheck renter to being a full grown investor. That economic maturity, the impact that economic maturity can have on giving you the opportunity to give yourself reparations. I want you guys to guess, if I took $1,500 a month and I earned 12% on $1,500 a month for 40 years, instead of giving that money to the landlord, I gave it to myself. How much do you think I would have after 40 years? I want you guys to guess. Guess in the chat. Let me see what your guesses are. Let me see.
Oh my goodness, that's got it.
Okay, all right. So I see some numbers in there. Let me give you drum roll, please.
That's got to be 7 million.
The number is $17,823,630.35.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, $17.8 million. So when you go a whole generation and you don't take the time to jump that fence,
yeah, 100%.
and become an investor, that's 17 million at a minimum. You know, we waste more money than that. And that don't count on money we spend on fast food, Air Jordans, and everything else, right? This is just the rent part. You must understand this. As Black people, we are among the greatest contributors to white supremacy that there are. Like, white supremacy can't exist without Black wealth, without Black money. So I just want you to process this. This is based on what they call the future value of an annuity calculator. This is a standard equation used in finance to determine how money grows over time if you invest it. Albert Einstein used to say that compound interest was the most powerful force in the universe, because even he was baffled by how much wealth you can build by investing consistently. That's why I tell you guys to invest consistently. This is how Donald Trump and his family got all their wealth. Is the father in 1930, I believe, made the leap. He went from being a renter to a buyer of real estate. And next thing you know, by the 1940s, 1950s, he's extremely wealthy. That's how the Trump family got their wealth. So I want you to learn the things that rich people know. Rich people have known this for generations. That's why they are able to do things that many of us can't do, because they learned a long time ago that working is the worst way to get money. So Julian, what are your thoughts on this that I just laid out for you?
And I got my own calculators, and but I just didn't plug in higher numbers. That is absolutely amazing. So what I did do similarly, and I know this is a Black show, but I ran what I call it is our personal internal rate of return, right? It's our internal rate of return. And our internal rate of return is how quickly we put money out into the world and how quickly it returns back to us. And I did a calculation of Elon Musk's internal rate of return from the moment he left PayPal to what he's created today. And you want to know what that 180 million that he took from PayPal and has grown into 90 billion today is? His internal rate of return is 38% per year.
Really? Wow.
If you take 180 million and grow it at 38% for, I think it's been 17 years since he left PayPal, that's how you get to 90 billion, right? So, he's operating on a very high level in terms of wealth creation, obviously. We're just trying to get to 12%. And my real estate portfolio produces at well above 12%. When you buy right, when you follow the techniques and strategies I'm going to show you on Friday, you can get a 12% return consistently. And in fact, my deals get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Why? Because my eyes get sharper and sharper and sharper. I'm able to see deals and create deals that I was not able to do early on in my real estate career. So this is what we are aspiring to do. And it's a long-term game. I know a lot of people are trying to play the fluctuations in the stock market, and some people win one day and then they lose the next. You got to be careful with that. If you could just if all of you just stopped and said, I just want to grow this $10,000 by 12% every year for the rest of my life, you're going to be well off, and your kids are too.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you guys will take a second to give Julian a digital round of applause. Thank him for what he's doing. The brother went to Stanford. He's a very, very smart Black man, and he's doing amazing things, and he's doing multi-million-dollar deals. Your real superheroes in your community, they aren't, I know disrespect to the rappers and the athletes and everything else, but those dreams are marketed to you, but those are not realistic for most people, especially me. I'm 5'8". I ain't going to the NBA, but this is something that you can do no matter how tall you are or where you were born, no matter where you came from. There's greatness in store for you. We just want you to shift your mindset. And so the Emancipation Equation Weekend starts September 11th at 8 p.m. We meet again September 12th at 8 p.m. Totally free, theemancipationequation.com. The URL's right there. That's theemancipationequation.com. So go ahead and register. If you want to invest in Buyback Baton Rouge, you can go to buybackbatonrouge.com. I'm going to invest because I just love it when brothers and sisters create these funds. I just think it's really fun to participate. So you can also take a look at that as well at buybackbatonrouge.com. So I look forward to seeing you guys this weekend. If you could, before you go, please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe button. And actually, you know what? I don't want to be rude. I'm going to say, give Julian the last word. Did you have anything you want to say before we bounce out, man?
So look, my ancestor spirit, and everybody, I encourage you to think about who your ancestor spirit is, right? My ancestor spirit is Harriet Tubman, and Harriet Tubman, she was the #1 conductor on the Underground Railroad, and over the course of about a decade, she made 19 trips below the Mason-Dixon line and freed about 300 people, right? I think multifamily real estate is the above-ground railroad. It is the above-ground railroad. Why? Because it's right there in plain sight. You've been driving by it on your way to work, on your way to the grocery store, on your way to pick up your kids. You just couldn't see it because you were looking at the aesthetics instead of the economics. You were looking at the aesthetics of it instead of the economics. And so you were missing out on deals. None of my properties will ever be featured on HGTV. And I do not care because it's not about granite countertop. It's about guaranteed cash flow. And so I want you to know that imagine being a slave or enslaved, because none of us are slaves. We were enslaved. Imagine being enslaved in Maryland, okay? And Maryland is right below the Mason-Dixon line. And you were enslaved on the corporate plantation for 40 years. And then somebody told you on your deathbed that the Mason-Dixon line was right there over the hill. Literally, the Mason-Dixon line was right there this whole entire time, but you didn't know until you were on your deathbed. If you would have known when you were younger, you actually would have ran for the Mason-Dixon line and you would have ran for freedom. And I'm letting you know that on the above ground railroad, the pathway to rent and mortgage freedom is you getting your first multifamily home. And once you do that, once you get rent off the table, once you get your mortgage expense off the table, then you can take that cash that you were saving and you can now invest that in other things like stocks, options, etc. And you can build your way to wealth while that piece of property that you own or control, not own, control, is also housing you and appreciating at the same time and giving you tax savings. So we would love to invite you on the Above Ground Railroad. Everybody won't be ready. There's people who have limiting beliefs here who just believe that it's not possible for them. I still encourage you to come for free on Friday. Harriet Tubman, she came back to free as many people as she could. Her own brothers didn't want to go the first time. Her own husband didn't want to go. Literally didn't want to go to freedom. Like literally was so comfortable where they were enslaved that they didn't want to go. And some folks just won't be ready for it. But if you are ready to take this journey and follow somebody who's actually been able to get there himself and who's helped other people get there, then please join us on Friday. It is absolutely free. There is no excuse, no reason why you should not be there. If you're going to be Netflixing and chilling and that's your priority, then we're just going to throw up the deuces to you and wish you and your family and your last name and everybody that comes after you well. But if you really want to create a new pathway for a new financial future, then we're going to be there Friday. So be ready.
All right. Rodney says, thanks. You just changed my life. That's what I like to hear. Give me a verbal yes. Give me a yes in the chat if you plan on coming to the Emancipation Equation weekend. It's theemancipationequation.com. Please type it in the chat, theemancipationequation.com. Give me a yes if you plan on coming out. And I look forward to seeing you guys there. You know, remember, we're trained to go spend $100,000 going to college. And I don't know about y'all, but I know a lot of people who will never pay back the debt that they took on going to college. I think these things are better than college, or at least as effective. And maybe not, you know, I don't want to put down college or anything like that. We got a 17-year-old, his mama wants him to go to college, but I point to other examples of success that he's actually more intrigued by. Because these are not just exciting dreams, but these are actually realistic for most people. And so I just really think investing is really the way. That's the pathway to success and power in our community. You guys have heard this on a regular basis on this channel, and that's why you're here. So I think you guys agree and already get it. So give me a yes in the chat if you plan on coming out. And we look forward to seeing you, theemancipationequation.com. So thanks a lot, Julian, man. I appreciate you coming through, brother.
All right. Much love, everybody. Have a great one. See you on Friday.
All right, my man. Take care. All right. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.